Are we live?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That was my live dance. Ah. But as we were talking about, when she's yelling at Otto, she says something, and then the central message of Buddhism is not every man for himself, and the London Underground is not a political movement. I can never remember what the first thing is.
Yeah, I don't know, because honestly, that line is all I remember of that scene. I haven't seen it since I was a little kid.
Right? Yeah, we watched it a lot when you were a little kid. Mom was appalled.
I think she's always represented herself to me as more sort of proud.
Well, but the day that we decided to watch it while there were a couple of daycare kids still in the house.
Yes. Yeah, then she was
like, yeah, what is wrong with you? And we were like, yeah. On the subject of tiny humans and cursing.
Tiny humans.
Abby says "goddamn" all the time, and I try to tell him, please don't say that, it will offend people. And he says, but what I'm saying is gold damn DAM, like it holds water back, Mom. I'm like,
didn't we all try that when we were kids? No, I'm just about the end.
Right? Yeah. I'm like, if you go back to school and you get in trouble with your teachers, we'll deal with that then. I'll be like, he spells it with the M.
Yeah. And that will not hold as much water as the aforementioned. Oh, yes. So what I'm going to be drawing today, you're still there. Anyway.
I'm here. Why? What?
No, I was just looking. The marks are still there. They'll go away by the end of the hour, but I don't actually know how long it lasts, so this will be an interesting experiment. What I'm drawing today.
Yes.
So there is my favorite romance novel cover of all time, and I will pull it up on my phone so I can show you, because it makes me cackle a lot. Let's see.
Cackling is fun.
Cackling is fun. So this is the cover. Wait, there we go.
What in the hell is going on there? With an alien arms.
So
that's like a really awkward Photoshop job, though.
It's a really awkward Photoshop job. Like, they just took his pecs and arms and like
cloned them
like slightly up, right? So it makes me cackle hysterically. Like, I probably laughed for 5 minutes when I first saw it. I saved it on my phone for when I need a chuckle.
Yeah.
Well, so I decided to read the book. The hero does, in fact, have 4 arms.
Who is it? Who wrote it?
Nessa Clow, I think is her name. Okay. The book's actually quite good.
Oh, good.
But there's a second cover, and it's worse.
No way.
So I was like, well, I'm gonna go buy this book, and oh my god. So let me pull up the second cover and I will show you. I'll probably have to start my screen.
Oh, you know what I bet? I bet someone somewhere has done some titillating rewrites of Burroughs fiction. That stuff was this close to being homoerotic anyway. Everyone's naked. Like all the John Carter of Mars stuff.
Oh yeah, well, and it's out of copyright, so they could sell that if they wanted to.
Ooh. Oh, rule whatever that is, 32, 42, 38. If you can imagine it, there's smut of it on the internet. That's
that one, yeah.
Yeah.
That's 32, isn't it?
I feel like there were a few associated ones, but 32 was that it's somewhere, but not necessarily dirty. And then like 35 was that it's dirty.
I'm not sure. But
and it might vary from state to state. Like Rocky Horror callbacks.
It was in was an internet thing. It wouldn't vary from state to state. It might vary from decade to decade.
There we go.
All right. Let me share my screen, and I will show you.
Speaking of things that probably already exist, I was thinking how neat it would be to rewrite a series of, oh my god, it's the same one, only no. That one doesn't even take into account, like, that the armpits would have to stack.
It's right, that's what's worse.
They just...
That's
lazy.
There's no muscle structure to support having 4 arms. And, like, it actually mentions in the book that he has 2 sets of pecs and, like, extra back muscles. So that there's just... So this is what I will be drawing a speculative artist rendering of the musculature for. Or not the musculature, the bone structure.
The bad one or the good one?
The bad one.
Okay.
Because I want to know. The
closest I can come up with is something spider-like, like the shoulders stacked forward and backward. Or
I'm just gonna draw it as like 2 humeri in one ball and socket joint with a little arrow that says "ow."
They didn't even get a different image of arms. They're exactly the same. Like the
Well,
this,
not even not only that.
It's this one. It's this one twice.
Yeah, I just noticed that too. Like they even use the other arm. Also, something is wrong with the texture of the skin here, and I don't know what's going on with that. It looks like crackle pottery. It looks like
it's crackle pottery. I know that texture within Photoshop. It's not meant to. No, It just needs lotion.
So much lotion. So
it
anyway,
rubs the lotion on its pecs.
So yes, that is that's that.
I think you're going to have fun with that.
I am.
I finished the Village at Night page of the book that I was working on. I finished my elemental write-ups, which, wow, felt weird. And then just odd things kept happening. So I feel like fairies are definitely involved. Like, I went to get them printed, and I explained to John, I just need these 120 pages because there's a little introductory page. I need it 3 times. I'll put it in 3 binders. I'll give it to 3 friends, and that way I'll get more data about how well it's working faster. And when he went to print, and then I left, and when he went to print it out, one of my other files, because he keeps my files on hand just because he's my printer, a file completely unrelated, but is just a very nice image, the unicorn grotto, ended up slapping itself into the Microsoft Word document at the top of the page. And he was like, I don't remember it looking like that, but I don't see how it could have gotten there without Robin doing it on purpose. So he printed it out that way, and I was like, it looks nice. But yeah, that's impossible. Like, to have what you can't put images in Microsoft Word documents on purpose half the time.
Yeah, right? Like, so it's a thing with Microsoft Word.
Yeah, and it's this beautiful header piece that is totally unrelated, and I'm like, okay, I'm getting trolled by fairies. That's what's happening. I'm okay with it because that means that they're involved, which means it has their blessing, because the best way to tell if weird shit doesn't happen, that's when you know that the fae don't give a rat's ass about what you're doing.
Do not eat my headphones. I mean it.
And
yeah, I just had to stare down with the cat, and I think she won. As usual.
She's a cat. That does not surprise me. Go, Junie, go.
Well, you don't want to root for her. She's trying to eat my headphones.
Don't eat the headphones. Just tell her who's boss. Them who's boss.
We know who's boss.
Yes.
Obviously.
Oh, Where the hell were we? Yes.
What's a good sketching pencil? Probably like an HB, huh?
That'll be soft, and you're left-handed, so it's going to end up a lot on the side of your hand, but it will make it easier to do shading.
Yeah, I don't need to get that advanced. I mean, the HB is definitely not the softest one I have. So for my graphite drawing class, they had us get a range between 2H and 4B.
Fair enough. 4B is almost like charcoal in its texture, I think. HB, though, wait, did you say which one did you say that you're using?
I was asking your opinion on if HB would be a good one.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, definitely not sketching
weird.
with
My brain rerouted that and translated it as 2B, I mean.
That makes sense, because I was like,
no, HB is fine. You're fine with HB. Do HB.
HB.
Do hydrogen boron. It's fine. I have discovered that I have become the kind of person who is upset when someone uses silicon versus silicone incorrectly.
Is this... Okay, no, I do know the difference. All right.
Yeah, silicone is a rubbery polymer, and silicon is the element. And because of all of the things I've done now, I am one of those people who, if someone says something like, "Oh, a silicone microchip," I'm like,
no, no, we don't make those in nonstick form.
But I've always hated being around those type of people, so I'm just like, I'll if I correct you, I'll be polite about it. I won't be like, I'll be like, do you think maybe you mean without the do. No longer news. Amroth to Faramir, like thunder they broke. Wait, where the hell were we? Did they break like thunder?
Oh, we were past them breaking like thunder because they brought Faramir in, and then
the Rohirrim cannot come.
We were, I think we were maybe one more section from that.
Digging lines of deep trenches in a huge ring just out of bowshot.
No, we were at the Rohirrim cannot come.
The Rohirrim cannot come. Woo!
I mean, I don't. Are we cheering for that? Or?
No, that's just. I'm cheering for having found the place.
Oh yes, indeed. I shall pull up a skeleton on my phone.
Do. Enjoy, have fun, and the gate was shut. All night, watchmen on the walls heard the rumor of the enemy that roamed outside, burning field and tree, and hewing any man that they found abroad, living or dead. The numbers that had already... What?
Hew!
It occurred to me today that it's possible that stormtroopers, since they're enslaved as children, actually shoot wide on purpose because they feel like they're on the wrong side.
I mean, I think that's actually extremely, like, plausible. Although, not the original stormtroopers, because the original stormtroopers weren't enslaved as children. They're clones who had the brainwash chip in their head, so they no longer have the ability to feel like they're on the wrong side.
Did we have leftover clones at that point?
During the
army.
During the 6 through 9, yeah, that's what the stormtroopers would have been.
What? Oh, the 6 through 9. The most recent ones?
No, sorry. 4 through 6. 4 through 6, yeah.
4 through 6 took place like 20 years after. So if they're still clones, they are they're really elderly clones. Maybe that's why they're shooting wide.
I mean, maybe. Don't they still have, like, the cloning planet didn't get destroyed, though?
I think it might have, or the facility was gutted or something, so that because the Emperor knew that the same trick could be used on him, so I am not the person to ask. Jason's the one who has the encyclopedic knowledge of the Star Wars cinematic universe and the comics, but I'm like,
I was gonna say we need a Star Wars person to tell us what canon says, because canon has something to say about this. We just don't know what it is.
Yeah. I've just got an enthusiastic amateur theory.
Cat?
They just shoot wide on purpose.
What are you
pew,
doing?
pew.
Pew pew. Sorry, she's trying to. One moment. Ma'am. Ma'am.
The thought of them.
You're not a mug.
I mean, that means that there were living men out on the Pelennor for them to hew, which means that there were probably some farmers who were like, "Screw you, city! I think the orcs are fake news. I'll just hide in my basement and they'll go past."
Yeah, probably. Or dudes who were injured but not dead yet.
Oh, there you go. That's even sadder.
Yeah, this is not a happy part of the story.
This is the worst part. This is why we are diffusing it with distractions. The numbers that had already passed over the river could not be guessed in the darkness, but when morning, or its dim shadow, stole over the plain, it was seen that even fear by night had scarcely overcounted them. The plain was dark with their marching companies, and as far as eyes could strain in the murk, there sprouted, like a foul fungus growth, all about the beleaguered city, great camps of tents, black or somber red. If I was an orc, I'd be a red tent orc.
What is a somber red? Are we talking like a maroon?
Oxblood.
Oxblood.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's appropriate.
Although it could be bright scarlet and it looks somber red in the dim light.
Also true. Yeah. I feel like Oxblood makes sense though. Like they probably wouldn't have a lot of bright red dyes. They're not really a brightly colored kind of place.
No, indeed.
How many clavicles do you suppose a person has if they have 4 arms?
2 in the front and then like 2 in the middle of their body. So the shoulders that you're drawing are stacked front to back, right?
Well, so no, I'm drawing these in a very silly way. I was thinking about the actual way it's described in the book, which is 2 sets of pecs stacked. So they would have 2 and then 2, right?
Yeah, stacked clavicles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Yeah.
It's possible that the 2 sternums too, and then you just have a lot of extra ribs stringing it all together and making it work as a unit.
What if you had 1 sternum, but like, because you know how like snakes' ribs are kind of jointed? What if you had 1 sternum with some jointed ribs that moved a little bit more, and you had a clavicle in the middle of it as well as at the top?
That would work. Give that a shot.
Well, I'm drawing the silly one first. The silly one's more fun.
Right. Busy as ants, hurrying orcs were digging lines of deep trenches in a huge ring just out of bowshot from the walls. And as the trenches were made, each was filled with fire, though how it was kindled or fed by art or devilry, none could see. That's fucking terrifying. All day the labor went forward while the men of...
They just have Zippos.
What?
I said they just have Zippos.
I'm just thinking of being in the city and looking out and there's rings of fire, concentric rings surrounding you across like 30 miles of what used to be pleasant plain.
Yeah, no, that is fucking terrifying.
Yeah. Although... So they talk at length about how they dealt with all the bodies after Helm's Deep, and he doesn't mention it at all after Pelennor. So my headcanon is just that those trenches just got filled with bodies and sodded over.
I mean, yeah, kind of Flanders Field style, I would imagine.
Yeah. Oh.
I'm sitting here like, are these proportions correct? And then I'm like, you are drawing a 4-armed alien. I was also being very critical of the agriculture portrait in the book. And I was like, 4-armed alien.
4-armed alien. Get over it.
Well,
what?
This is very off topic. It was pretty good. But she was a one-person farm, subsistence farming, and that's just not possible.
Nope.
Anyway, back to the Pelennor.
Really, really rich soil. I guess that could do it.
But even then, like, you can't grow enough vegetables to sustain all of your caloric needs. You have to, and it did say, like, oh, she had a few extra to trade, but, like, I just didn't find it. I know a little bit too much about agriculture for that.
Her neighbor brought her the occasional hog. I don't know.
She raises cows, but it says she uses them for dairy, so I don't know.
Dairy's nicely caloric.
It is, but it's not year-round.
Cheese. Oh, no. All day the labor went forward while the men of Minas Tirith looked on, unable to hinder it. And as each length of trench was completed, they could see great wains approaching. And soon yet more companies of the enemy were swiftly setting up, each behind the cover of a trench, great engines for the casting of missiles. There were none upon the city walls large enough to reach so far, or to stay the work. At first men laughed, and did not greatly fear such devices, for the main wall of the city was of great height, and marvellous thickness built ere the power and craft of Numenor waned in exile, and its outward face was like to the tower of Orthanc, hard and dark, which I'm glad they skipped for the movies, and smooth, unconquerable by steel or fire, unbreakable except by some convulsion that would rend the very earth on which it stood. It's so incongruous. We've got this beautiful white city with a black wall.
Right, yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense, like, visually. I think they made a good choice to just keep it white.
Yeah.
Although it does kind of make sense with the mood of Minas Tirith in the book, you know? Like, that sort of, we're going to be very proudly gothy.
Yeah, but they sort of, they took that aesthetic and put it in Denethor's throne room with all the black and white imagery there. So
that's true, which was just chef's kiss.
Beautiful. Nay, they said. Nay.
Sorry. It's gonna be that kind of a stream today.
Always is, baby, always is. Not if the nameless one himself should come. Not even he could enter here while we yet live. But some answered, while we yet live. How long? He has a weapon that has brought low many strong places since the wet world began. Hunger. The roads are cut. Rohan will not come. Rohan never brought you food anyway, you weirdos.
Oh, indeed. They probably would now, I guess.
Sure. But the engines did not waste shot upon the indomitable wall. There was no brigand or orc chieftain that ordered the assault upon the lord of Mordor's greatest foe. A power and mind of malice guided it. As soon as the great catapults were set with many yells and the creaking of rope and winch, they began to throw missiles marvelously high, so that they passed right above the battlement and fell thudding within the first circle of the city. And many of them by some secret art burst into flame as they came toppling down. Soon there was great peril of fire behind the wall, because we love the smell of napalm in the morning. And all who could be spared were busy quelling the flames that sprang up in many places.
I love the smell of hewing in the morning. Sorry.
Then among the greater castes there fell another hail, less ruinous, but more horrible. All about the streets and lanes behind the gate it tumbled down, small round shot that did not burn. But when men ran to learn what it might be, they cried aloud or wept. For the enemy was flinging into the city all the heads of those who had fallen, fighting at Osgiliath, or on the Ramas, or in the fields. They were grim to look on, for though some were crushed and shapeless, and some had been cruelly hewn, yet many had features that could be told, and it seemed that they had died in pain, and all were branded with the foul token of the lidless eye. Aside from the dead marshes, I think this is the most disturbing image in these stories.
Yeah, no, it's just like,
yeah. But marred and dishonored as they were, it often chanced that thus a man would see again the face of someone that he had known, who had walked proudly once in arms, or tilled the fields, or ridden in upon a holiday from the green vales and the hills. Yeah. Y'all gonna need therapy.
So much therapy.
It's funny because he doesn't usually hold back, but PJ left that aspect of it out.
I think that was just like,
didn't have time for it.
It wasn't the story that he wanted to tell about the Pelennor. Like, he knows, he is a man who understands like over the top violence in filmmaking, but it would have come across either so horrifying and upsetting or almost slapstick.
Right. Well, I mean, he did have them shoot the heads in, but he didn't have anyone go, "Holy crap, Brian," or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have been difficult. Shit, that's my brother, just that, none of that.
Yeah, that would have been
a little too much.
A little too much, or unintentionally make people laugh.
Yeah.
Oh my God, so like,
yeah.
Speaking of things that are very upsetting, I'm about to draw the second humerus in the same ball and socket joint, and it's making me very upset.
Gotta be a real big socket.
It's a real big socket. See, there it is right there.
Yep. In vain men shook their fists at the pitiless foes that swarmed before the gate. Curses they heeded not, nor understood the tongues of Western men, crying with harsh voices like beasts and carrion birds. But soon there were few left in Minas Tirith who had the heart to stand up and defy the hosts of Mordor. For yet another weapon, swifter than hunger, the Lord of the Dark Tower had. Dread and despair. Yeah, you think he's going to wait for y'all to starve?
Right? Like, he's got explosives, and you do not have explosives, so I don't think...
Or do you have explosive, or like bomb squads? You have no bomb squad.
Right? You don't even have a fire department, probably.
Right? That's why everyone's rushing around trying to put out fires, because there's no fire department.
Lucky for them, most of the city's made out of stone.
Right? That actually kind of upsets me that they're rushing to put out fires. I'm like, dude, just leave it. There's nothing to burn.
Right?
But
like, what's up? But I guess they have, like, I don't know.
Furniture?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Wagons, maybe, haystacks.
Stuff,
Stuff. The Nazgul. What?
I don't like this one bit.
Can
you see it?
Yeah.
It's bad.
It looks like the bones are going to click against each other every time he moves his arm.
That's because they are. It's the only way it could work. Ooh.
The Nazgul came again, and as their dark lord now grew and put forth his strength, so their voices, which uttered only his will and his malice, were filled with evil and horror. Ever they circled above the city like vultures that expect their fill of doomed men's flesh. Out of sight and shot.
Vultures have an important part of the ecosystem.
What's that?
Vultures are an important part of the ecosystem. Let's not give vultures a bad name.
Right.
Donald.
Well, he doesn't say like vultures that will kill or maim or rend. Just, they expect to eat well tonight.
Right. Well, they aren't actually vultures. He's saying the Nazgul are like vultures, but like in a crappy way towards vultures. It's an insult to vultures, is what I'm saying.
I hear you. I hear you.
Go on.
Out of sight and shot they flew, and yet were ever present, and their deadly voices rent the air. Honestly, one of the creepiest lines, too, is they uttered only his will and malice. Can you imagine being enslaved for 1,000 years and have your voice taken away and just replaced with hate? Because you wanted power, you ended up in the most powerless place that there is.
I mean, that's another part of the whole message of the thing, right? Is like those who seek out power end up enslaved by their desire for power.
Yup. Oh. More unbearable they became, not less, at each new cry. At length even the stout-hearted would fling themselves to the ground as the hidden menace passed over them, or they would stand, letting their weapons fall from nerveless hands, while into their minds a blackness came, and they thought no more of war, but only of hiding, and of crawling, and of death. During all this black day Faramir lay upon his bed in the chamber of the White Tower, wandering in a desperate fever. Dying, someone said, and soon dying, all men were saying upon the walls and in the streets. And by him his father sat and said nothing, but watched, and gave no longer any heed to the defense. No hours so dark had Pippin known, not even in the clutches of the Uruk-hai. It was his duty to wait upon the Lord, and wait he did, forgotten it seemed, standing by the door of the unlit chamber, mastering his own fears as best he could. And as he watched, it seemed to him that Denethor grew old before his eyes, as if something had snapped in his proud will and his stern mind was overthrown. Well spotted, Pippin. That is what happened.
As a matter of fact, since you mention it, exactly.
Overthrown is a good way to say it, yeah.
I saw a thing today that was talking about Denethor, and it was like, basically, he's like your grandpa that's been only watching Fox News for 10 years.
Yeah. Fox News is, oh God. I have been extremely unhappy, depressed. I mean, not that that matters, but about the international situation, about what's happening in Ukraine.
Yeah.
And of course, the only news I really watch are the late night talk show hosts, because at least I can get a chuckle out of things. It's a little less stressful, but the clips they show of Fox make me just scream, because it's so, not just is it all lies, but it's so inconsistent. They're like, these are baby murdering satanic cult of incredibly powerful people. This is the Democratic Party, who we have to stop at all costs, because otherwise they will take over the world with their wicked, evil cunning. And then anything happens and they're like, oh, these weak incompetents are going to destroy everything by being weak and incompetent. And I'm like, they can't be a sinister force for organized evil and bumbling buffoons. Like,
well, see, you have the ability to experience cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, these don't line up. They don't line up.
One of these things is not like the others.
Right?
Okay. I'm going to take out 2 vertebrae because they were too far apart. And here is my terrible creation. Let me see. There we go.
Was ist clavicle? No, not clavicle. Scapula? Is that a scapula back there?
It's a scapula, yes.
Okay, we got scapulae.
Yes.
Yeah. We need more ribs.
Well, I know. It's not all of the ribs. I just got bored of drawing ribs, so I think that's as far as I'm going to go.
Okay.
It's depicting...
Now draw it the right way, because this is really upsetting.
Okay. Depicting the shoulder. So, like, I'm going to have to draw all the ribs to draw it the right way, though. Oh, boy. Yeah. Oh, boy.
How many ribs do you think there would be, though, between the lower shoulder and the upper shoulder? Like, there's got to be something in there.
Well, like, okay, how many ribs are there from your clavicle to approximately the bottom of your pec?
Just like 2, I think.
I'm like trying to count. But you and I both have some boobage in the way of figuring that out.
True, yeah. 2 or 3, maybe?
So, like, yeah, if you had 3 up here and then a second, like, rib/clavicle situation.
I used to be able to suck in the divot in between my clavicles. I can't remember what that's called anymore.
It's not the zygomatic. Yeah, I've seen it. It's very disturbing.
It's not as cool as it used to be. I've got a lot more flesh than I did then.
Well, don't we all?
I had to tell them at the DMV that I'm 10 pounds heavier than I was at my last weigh-in. Like,
I don't know how much I weigh, but I know that I've gone up about 3 pant sizes.
Well, that's good.
Yeah,
you have 3 pant sizes to spare.
I'm like solidly a size like medium in a lot of clothes now.
You don't have to shop in the little boys section anymore.
But also, I can't shop in the little boys section anymore.
Sorry. It was the best of times. It was the blurst of times.
The second drawing is probably going to be shittier because I'm bored with drawing ribs, but we'll at least give it a good little.
Vultures aren't that bad. Start-hearted man, broken brain. Grief maybe had wrought it, and remorse. Pippin saw tears on that once tearless face, more unbearable than wrath. Do not weep, lord, he stammered. Perhaps he will get well. Have you asked Gandalf? Comfort me not with wizards, said Denethor. The fool's hope has failed. The enemy has found it, and now his power waxes. He sees our very thoughts, and all we do is ruinous. I sent my son forth, unthanked, unblessed, out into needless peril, and here he lies with poison in his veins. Nay, nay, whatever may now betide in war, my line too is ending. Even the house of the Stuarts has failed. Mean folk shall rule the last remnant of the kings of men, lurking in the hills until all are hounded out. Men came to the door, crying for the lord of the city. Nay, I will not come down, he said. I must stay beside my son. He might still speak before the end, but that is near. Follow whom you will, even the grey fool, though his hope has failed. Here I stay.
Thanks, real helpful, Denethor.
Right. So it was that. Also, vague posting.
Right?
I mean, okay, so he says the enemy has found it, and he's talking to Pippin, so Pippin ought to be like, okay, alarm bells, but how do you know, and why do you know, and how can you be sure?
Yeah, I feel like
I know you don't have a Palantir.
I don't have a Palantir. Oh, fuck it, I do have a Palantir.
So it was that Gandalf took command of the last defense of the city of Gondor. Wherever he came, men's hearts would lift again, and the winged shadows pass from memory. Tirelessly he strode from citadel to gate, from north to south, about the wall, and with him went the Prince of Dol Amroth. Who cares?
Is he still here?
In his shining mail. For he and his knights still held themselves like lords in whom the race of Númenor ran true. Men that saw them whispered, saying, Belike the old tales speak well. There is elven blood in the veins of that folk, for the people of Nimrodel dwelt in that land once, long ago. Pretty sure it would have been recorded. There were 3 elf-man pairings. Nimrodel wasn't one of them.
Right, like it's usually a pretty big deal when elves marry men.
Yeah.
Like it's not they don't really.
Maybe it was just sort of osmosis genes, you know? There was elves nearby and we sort of got their characteristics.
Via Bluetooth?
Magic?
I suppose. I read a thing the other day about a man who he like hooked up with a girl and she got pregnant, and she was like, no, we can do a paternity test. I'm not sure if you're the father. And he was like, okay, but I also want to do a maternity test and make sure you're the mother. And everyone was like, quoi?
Are you kidding?
Are you kidding? So he wasn't kidding. He was under the belief that because she lived with like a couple of roommates and their cycles had synced up. He was under the belief that when that happens, women can transfer eggs to each other in some way.
Health class has failed us all.
Everyone was like, my God, I hope that kid's not his. Yeah, that's why, because people were in the comments were like, wait, like Wi-Fi, Bluetooth,
right?
Does this and his friend who was trying to talk sense into him was like, I couldn't even get him to explain if he thought this happened inside or outside of their bodies.
Yeah. I just that's almost precious, but not quite.
It's something.
Oh, incidentally, I didn't exactly learn because it's unconfirmed, but I read that Bluetooth is named for a Viking.
Oh, I feel like I've read something about that too. I don't know.
Yeah, I need to look that up.
Yeah.
And make sure I have the facts correct, because that's delightful.
Right?
Some guy named, I don't know, Hans Bluetooth. and his rune is the one they use for the logo. That was and I'm like, everything about that is awesome.
Oh yeah, it is the B rune. Huh.
It's the B rune, but with the J rune behind it, something like that.
Well, I have Bluetooth. Let me see.
Yeah. There is elvish blood in the veins of that folk. Not really. For the people of Nimrodel dwelt in that land once long ago, and then one would sing amid the gloom some staves of the lay of Nimrodel and other songs of the Vale of Anduin out of vanished years. That would totally be me. We're screwed, there's fire, there's death, we gon' die. Scotsman clad in kilt left the bar one evening fair.
With a giraffe if you stand on a stool.
But a hedgehog can never be buggered at all.
Checks out.
No, Hobbit songs are for dark days and evil times. Hobbits would rock the hell out of the hedgehog song.
Oh, they totally would. Weren't we joking that was what Pippin was singing the other day? All right.
And yet, when they had gone, the shadows closed on men again, and their hearts went cold, and the valor of Gondor withered into ash. And so slowly they passed out of a dim day of fears into the darkness of a desperate night. Fires now raged unchecked in the first circle of the city, and the garrison upon the outer wall was already in many places cut off from retreat. But the faithful who remained there at their posts were few. Most had fled beyond the second gate. Far beyond the battle, the river had been swiftly bridged, and all day more force and gear of war had poured across. Now at last, in the middle night, the assault was loosed. The vanguard passed through the trenches of fire by many devious paths that had been left between them. On they came, reckless of their loss as they approached, still bunched and herded within the range of bowmen on the wall. Wouldn't that be the most ignominious way for an orc soldier to die? You're creeping along towards the city, you're about ready to slice some stupid men into tiny little pieces, and boom, you fall in a fire pit and you're dead.
Oh, there went Gronk. We hardly knew him. All right, more like this is where I would like that to sit.
I was trying to come up with another orc name, and I kept coming up with biblical ones. Yeah, good to go. I feel like the two scapulae would be, or the stacked scapulae would be different shapes.
They are.
Yeah.
This one, so this one only comes down to here.
Okay.
And then this one comes down to here.
I see it now.
Yeah. I was thinking the same thing. They wouldn't overlap because then you'd have a whole situation with bone grinding on bone. So I figure the top arms would be have a little bit less leverage. So they'd be more specialized for like delicate, fine motor skills. And then the bottom arms would be the strong, lifty arms.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Thank you.
Still bunched and herded within the range of bowmen on the wall, but indeed there were too few now left there to do them great damage, though the light of the fires showed up many a mark for archers of such skill as Gondor once had boasted. Then, perceiving that the valor of the city was already beaten down, the hidden captain put forth his strength. Slowly the great siege towers built in Osgiliath rolled forward through the dark. Messengers came again to the chamber in the White Tower, and Pippin let them enter, for they were urgent. Denethor turned his head slowly from Faramir's face. And looked at them silently. The first circle of the city is burning, my lord, they said. What are your commands? You are still the lord and steward. Not all will follow, Mithrandir. Men are flying from the walls and leaving them unmanned. Why? Why do the fools fly? Said Denethor. Better to burn sooner than late, for burn we must. Go back to your bonfire, and I will go now to my pyre. To my pyre. No tomb for Denethor and Faramir. No tomb. No long, slow sleep of death embalmed. We will burn like heathen kings before ever a ship sailed hither from the west. The west has failed. Go back and burn. The messengers, without bow or answer, turned and fled. They really should have spread the alarm that Denethor was fucking nuts.
Wouldn't you think you'd be like, hey, one story, we need somebody else to run the defense now.
Not just that, but can we get somebody to, like, I don't know, restrain the old man? Because he sounds scary. Can we throw him in the brig until the crisis is over? Like, can we do something?
Do we have a padded room? Can someone get that armor off him? Jeez.
Right? Now Denethor stood up and released the fevered hand of Faramir that he had held. He is burning, already burning, he said sadly. The house of his spirit crumbles. Then, that's a very poetic way of putting it. Then stepping softly toward Pippin, he looked down at him. Farewell, he said. Farewell, Peregrine, son of Paladin. Your service has been short, and now it is drawing to an end. I release you from the little that remains. Go now and die in what way seems best to you, and with whom you will, even that friend whose folly brought you to this death. Send for my servants and then go. Farewell. I will not say farewell, my lord, said Pippin, kneeling. And then suddenly, hobbit-like once more, he stood up and looked the old man in the eyes. I will take your leave, sir, he said, for I want to see Gandalf very much indeed. But he is no fool, and I will not think of dying until he despairs of life. But from my word and your service I do not wish to be released while you live. And if they come at last to the citadel, I hope to be here and stand beside you and earn perhaps the arms that you have given me. Do as you will, Master Halfling, said Denethor, but my life is broken. Send for my servants. He turned back to Faramir. And that is the last gap for a while, so let's just leave it.
These are such light and cheery episodes.
What's this one called?
Dammit, Ecthelion. mean, it had to be.
It's just, yeah. You raised a dud by being whatever.
Well, I have made the better arms.
Yeah.
I didn't draw both because it would be the same, but
check. Looks good though. Yeah, it'll be fun to like build it in a 3D program and then see how they actually move.
It would. This is one of those times when I am by far overthinking the four-armed alien romance novel I read.
I had told Drea because I was kind of not venting per se, but waxing enthusiastic about my elementals and stuff, and going, I would really love to inspire other people. I'd love to see cosplays or tattoos or drawings of these characters, but as like adventuring parties. And I was like, I have even already made peace with the fact that if this becomes popular, someone somewhere will make molecules that are pornographic. I'm just saying, it will exist. I'm okay with that. If somebody's that inspired, like, as long as they age up the young ones, because I don't want to see sodium and chlorine unless they're grown.
Well, let's be real. The ones that are going to get turned into molecules are the furry ones.
Oh.
Like, you have a very sexy cat lady and a very, like, muscular horse dude, and if you didn't draw that to appeal to furries, then I have some news for you about what appeals to furries.
I did that so that I could keep track of which column was which, because the mammals are all in the same column. And I don't know if there's a molybdenum chromium. I'm sure there is. Like, all of those transition metals blend well.
Yeah, also, I don't think people are going to be, well, maybe, actually, no. They will be concerned about whether that's scientifically accurate.
That's the beauty of it.
Yes. All right, well, I'm going to go make some dinner.
Okay. And I'm going to go eat some more dessert now that I've digested.
Sounds delightful.
I love you muchly.
I love you too. I will see you next week.
Okie dokie. Cuidado.
Llamas.